You're like the mute monitor.
I am. I got to be good at this. It means they can't
So
hear us.
this is part 3. You're like the mute
Yes.
monitor. Oh, let's stop all this. This is a learning experience, obviously.
Of course.
Hello, welcome back, Six. Did you enjoy a
Hello,
little
hello,
break?
sidekick.
Did you enjoy a little break?
Oh, yes, I did. It was very nice to take a breather after that.
Part 2, for those of you who didn't watch it, is very intense. It is for the more advanced thought process, and Six had a message that he needed to get out about not joining the what was it, the project again that you didn't in the future?
Either the Phoenix program or the Immortality program
Immortality.
will
Do not join these
exist.
programs.
It's
Oh,
not what you think it is, and it will end up very badly.
okay, so let's get started. So when we met, you had mentioned some things that you knew about me, and I felt like how did he know that? Oh my God! Like there was these little fairies that would just come off of me, and my when I was babysitting my granddaughter, my daughter would be watching from work on her little cameras, the cameras. And she said, Mom, there's these little fairies that are flying all around you. They're just flying all around you, these little fairies. And I said, well, that's crazy. But yeah, she could see them on the little home monitor cameras. And then
Hmm.
when I met you, you're like, you have all these little fairies flying around you that tell you things, don't you? I'm like,
Yeah, but
how the
straight
heck
up.
did you know that?
Well, that's because the Fey universe, as it's known, is physically on Earth. It's just slightly different vibration. It's at a point in between our physical world and our next dimension. They live in between the two different points. They're able to physically affect certain things in our world, even though it takes a little bit more energy and time to do so. And we kick, trample, stomp on all the time, little Faye, without realizing it. You'll just trip over something and nothing was there, or something like that, because they do physically exist simultaneously in our world. We just cannot see them because the world we live on is also their world. The only difference between us and them is literally our vibration.
Well, I can tell you that several years back, I had a vision to where the left eye was seeing my bedroom, and the right eye was seeing a forest with a stream just flowing. I'm like, oh my God, how is one eye seeing different realities? Is it that simple?
Well, not everyone's quite connected to the Fey universe, but in your case, you know you're special because you're literally a being there and here simultaneously, living. If you take down the vibration and bring them to peace, you would turn into a what would be a fusion of your looks in both worlds. Due to how that would quite work for you, that's if you survive the process, because that process could be dangerous if you're freaking out over it. The
Well,
calmer
let's
you
start
are
at the
and
beginning.
low, the better off it would be in such a situation, because it
Let's
could.
start from the beginning because you said that your dad was part elven,
Be
correct?
one of the species that would be considered. Yes, he was
Now,
half
if you
human,
do, if you do
Nordic.
your research,
Nordic is one of the species considered elven. I use that as a generalized term, because okay, you got these fantasy idea of what an elf is, and there's certain psychic humanoids that actually exist that are a pretty good explanation. It just depends on which type of elf and which mythology quite you're talking, more or less, to what could cause such things. You're muted again. You're muted again, miss.
in instance, I want you to tell me about your dad. Now, your dad had some elven DNA,
Mhm.
correct?
He was
which
half
means
human, half elven. I honestly don't know much about him other than,
which
you
means
know,
that you have elven DNA.
yes, a little bit.
Okay.
I also have a little bit of reptilian DNA, which kind of means my brain is constantly at war between lizard brain and true emotion. And it can make me seem cold and distant, even though my heart's overbeating everything.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was most people.
Well, in some ways, it can be caused by other factors, but yes.
So now, if you do some research and if you go back to France and some of those royal families, you're going to find out when it comes to the Albingians or the white ladies, the Albingians or whatever.
One of the other humanoid races that are pretty
The,
much
those
like us, but
those
some.
are connected to the Elven, and the Elven are similar to the Fae. Is that correct?
Um, they live in a somewhat similar frequency, but they're an ET of that frequency.
So would an elven be closer to a human and then a fae be like the next step, or are they distant cousins, or
They're very similar in some aspects. I mean, the Fey universe is things function a little bit differently due to their vibration. The rules of things work, even though it's the same physical world as ours. One of the things I've been really trying to focus on lately, after figuring out that all these worlds are sitting side by side, is what happens if one merges or touches, and some of the damage that could cause by extreme exposure just to each other because of just fundamental laws of things. And
well,
that's
when
honestly
did
what I kind of agree about, like
were
the
the
Fey
fae
world
here,
and the couple of
were the
frequencies.
fae here before us, or where did they start?
Simultaneously, the Fey world is, as I said, it's another dimensional frequency. It's a different vibration. They're different beings than us genetically, but they all come from the same physical Earth. They exist simultaneously, side by side of us. I mean, unless you have a special gift, you're not going to be able to see one unless they're able to come through to ours, and vice versa. But you can physically go there, and you still exist within the world. You're just unseen within the time that you're gone, within just all from changing your physical vibration. If you've ever seen Eon Flux, a good way to describe this is in the old MTV cartoon, the machine that's vibrating and changing the vibration, allowing a room to be inside of a human man, that him and his lover went to, but you'd have to be wearing the suit to get to the vibration type of thing. But that's how you vibrated constantly normally. It's the same kind of a concept, but I'm using that as a descriptor.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm having a trouble seeing that. I mean, I literally have to see things in my head to kind of understand them. What? So were they here as long as us, before us, after us? Were they banished at one time? Were they humans at one
There's
time,
a
or were we
lot of
Fae
history of the
originally?
Fae. Before the Dark Ages, there was a few points in time in history to where their vibration would be at the same frequency as ours, to where they would be as physical and real as me and you, visibly, even though they technically are. Because, as I said, they're always around us. Their world and our world is the same world. The only difference is the vibration, but on the same physical plane of existence. And that creates a lot of friggin' problems if, say, word fusion, this divergence of energy thing would create that. And there's probably going to be signs of it. The closer we get to that convergence point, the more likely it is certain laws of the universe are going to go kafooey, and things aren't going to flow in the way it should, turning more into feeling like one elongated dream than an actual reality, because it's more of a center of energy than physical mass in such a state.
So when we get to that convergence point, you had told me before that basically what your innermost being is, we're going to start just becoming more and more like that. Like, for instance, the little walls that separate all the different realities and dimensions are going to kind of fall to where everyone's going to become who they truly are, where we're going to be walking around, where we're going to be able to see, like if you're reptilian or fey or elven or whatever, you're going to be able to see each other as that.
It would cause a lot of chaos, and therefore is a potential problem down the line. I mean, if we caused enough damage in the time-space continuum, it could cause that, as we were just saying beforehand. It falls down, and then we see each of these beings as their soul truly is perceived. And that would I could see people freaking out, not knowing what to do, and killing each other because of the misunderstanding and misunderstanding the situation.
Okay, well, can you describe that a little bit? Like, so basically, people are going to be becoming what their true soul looks like, which means their organic bodies are going to be changing.
Well, no, there's a lot of problems within this, because one thing is, if dimensions fuse as they do at this convergent point, then that means even numerous physical dimensions could fuse into one singular being. And then say if you're dead on a branch, then that part doesn't pass into you, as it just all flows into one singular vessel, so to speak, at this point in time. And that is more akin to what you truly look like based off of your actions, who you are, and your karmic debt to the universe will determine your looks in truth at that point, as the dimensions are very strange and things are muddled and we're potentially damaged. I mean, fabric of reality, as it breaks down, does such a thing would happen.
So you're talking about dimensions fusing.
Yes.
Okay. Is it, how many dimensions are going to fuse?
Potentially.
Is it all of them?
During this, okay, a lot of people lately have been seeing visions of one omni light. There's only one path. The only way that's possible is if all dimensions fuse and there's no longer a branch. We become for real, not just an energy essence, memory, delusion of self, sentient existence. It would become an actual, real, new. It'd be hard to describe, but it's like the universe is dying off, so it's trying to evolve into something new that can't be comprehended by even itself, but it will be new.
Wow. Is that happening to us like daily? I mean, because it's almost like each day is kind of like Groundhog Day right now, but it almost feels like not real. I mean, it just, the current events that are happening in the world just don't seem real to me.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why. As I said, you could be one of the ones connected to that potential future. You could be somebody that's psychic and feeling what's going on, and just the different wavelengths of just being empathic, feeling the people that are stuck in a simulation in the past of where they physically are, or somebody that's actually physically in this world, both happening simultaneously, which is really hard to grasp. But that's one of the situations actually happening now, as well as interdimensional refugees coming in from their worlds being slowly destroyed from
Oh my goodness.
rims of the energy condensing down upon itself.
I'm grasping this. I'm seeing it. Okay, so it's just like a melting point to where everyone's going to just kind of be thrown together as one, and you know your reality is just going to change.
All realities are going.
All realities are just going to change. That's crazy. So now back to the Fae. Now I've had dreams and visions where
you miss our Fae, okay? you're living as a physical human being as well as the queen of the fae simultaneously. If anything, if anyone's telling us this world, it should be you, because I'm pretty sure you're deeply connected to it, and I can practically see in the camera your little fairies constantly, but that's just me.
Well, the funny thing is I've had those dreams and visions where the one that I remember the most is they gave me a scroll and they said, "Do you know who the queen of the fairy realm is?" And I get the scroll and I unroll it and it's me, my name. And it's like I I can't believe this stuff. And then so like I said, and then I've had experiences where I've had this mist come to me and open up, and I've had these beings talking to me, and I remember the fairy realm being kind of like a mist, like an opening, but then I'm kind of confused because that's how they take you, like that's how they took you for these ops. They put like this
That's
mist.
a great way to change someone's vibration. You create a fog and then you electrically charge it in such a way as to change vibration. You can potentially travel from one dimensional structure to another physically. It's just very difficult to do. You have to, as I said, get the energy patterns just right. If you overdo it, you're going to shock yourself or end up someplace that doesn't even have oxygen. Dimensional travel is very complex, but it can be done without any technology whatsoever if you're able to feel and understand your physical aura and what is around you and how to manipulate the very energy and matter around you. It takes a lot of knowledge and as well as knowledge, growth, understanding, and experience within using that knowledge in
Well,
order to
I
do it.
definitely have had some experiences, and I know I've shared a lot with you. And I mean,
Oh yeah.
I don't want to really just go into all that right now.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
I I've just gone and like for instance, I did, let me just give you an example. I was falling asleep and I put my head down on my desk, and the moment when I started falling asleep, my leg jerked and my inner eye could see my light body trying to step out of my body. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, right when I jerked, when I thought I was falling asleep, my inner eye saw my light body, my foot trying to step out of my body. And then I jerked and I went back into my body. So I've seen my light body. I've seen it many, many times, and I've even had other people see me standing next to their bed or walking through their kitchen and looking just like a being of light. And so, like when I go to bed at night, most of the time I'm just out. I don't remember. I can remember being places and doing things. Also, I can remote view to where I can basically be anywhere at any time. I've seen a lot of things going on. I can also see past lives. I've seen my past lives. I can see other people's past lives. So basically, my light body comes and goes at its leisure. Now, is that something that it would be considered fey? Is the light body?
The light body is directly connected to the Fae. The Fae dimension is very close to the pure energy source. It's like a halfway point in between the physical realm and the pure energy realm, and it's meant to be a mediator between the two. Has been for a very long time.
Wow.
Like me, my energy form, my true energy self is kind of a scary process. It almost feels like an eldritch horror because just imagine a giant tall version of me with endless amounts of me growing out of me in a physical mesh. As a finger points out, it's literally a me inside of a me inside of a me inside of a me inside of a me, all pointing and slowly diverging into a fingertip pointing towards you, as it all exists to where it's like my physical mass, but endless me's creating that physical mass.
Now, can you explain that a little bit more at like a beginner level? Whoops.
That's really hard to describe. More my true soul self kind of looks like my physical self, but made up of millions of tiny versions of my physical self, all fused into one mass. And being an omnidimensional being of the physical flesh, it creates some problems, and it'll be like there's one of me, but as the main self goes to point a finger, that finger is made up of versions of whole bodies of myself, different dimensional spectrums of myself, and each of them flows constantly directly into each other.
No, now that makes sense to me because I know that there's been other research done, and so if you were to take like your DNA, if you were to take one little tiny cell, it contains all of the universe just as much as your body, your whole entire structure contains the universe. I mean, one little, that's why you can get one little piece of DNA and it contains the whole.
If you're able to stretch out your blood vessels, it'll wrap around the planet a couple times. If you could do it properly, it's crazy how much matter is a strange concept, because even the tiniest amount, it depends on density, is what we're talking about. If you stretch it out to its thinnest point, yes, the bloodstream could wrap around the planet a couple of times.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Fae. Were they
what it is in our physical body as a size of mass?
Were we more like the Fae, and then as time went on, we got denser?
Yes and no. That's flowing into this. This place that we're at is a hodgepodge of numerous dimensional frequencies and beings of different dimensions themselves, as well as their different potential possibilities, all kind of rolling back into a more controlled and combined circuit. It's like chaos finally creating order for the first time, which was thought impossible. This world is strange in a sense.
So what I'm thinking is
being pure chaos.
What I'm thinking is, in the higher vibrations, you're less dense. And then when your vibration gets heavier and lower, it becomes more solid, to where your consciousness, even your I don't know, your being could become more dense like a rock.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
or vice versa, that if you keep going up, eventually you'll become so light that you are the heaviest, and you can go so down that you are the lightest. Ascension is descension. It's both the same path. It's different views on a generalized concept, which we take at face value.
So all of us potentially could have been anything at any time, but the heavier and the lower vibration that
from manifesting that, we tell each other it's impossible, as certain select few are actually able to. It's not a power of what you have faith in, it's the power of faith itself that allows you to have the more pure and raw manifestation abilities. And it's how it flows as a whole that creates the physical reality around us. The physical reality around us. Sorry, mumble.
Okay, so it's just hard to wrap my brain around everything you say. I mean, it makes sense, but I always have to go back to make sure that I understand this. So
I'm sorry.
What causes somebody to lower their vibration or raise their vibration? And does it happen over
positive and negative?
Does it happen over millions of centuries or millions of years, or does it happen overnight? I mean, can somebody really just lower their vibration
it can be done overnight. It can happen over a long period of time. It just depends on that point of awakening and understanding. It's how you tune the energy, and once it gets to a certain frequency, it's either in this place, or this place. And if you super overtune for this place, you're going to be in both these places at once.
Wait, can you explain that? What do you mean?
Each one would be a dimensional frequency. Say this one's the pure positive, this one down here is the pure negative, and this one in the middle is your neutral setting. It's everything in between. As you have those three, it secretly creates a fourth, which is the balance of the whole. And say you're trying to be good all the time, and you stay good your whole life. You're simultaneously going to be existing as your most negative and your most positive, because you don't allow them to exist. They sit in your subconscious and create existences of their own. You're muted, by the way.
So yeah, we got to take it back just a little bit, because at this time in this convergence, the idea is to have no fear, and to create peace, and don't judge, and have love in your heart, because we want to, our mission is to continually to go back towards source, which would be more positive.
Well, in my particular case, I don't quite view it like that, because both are supposed to exist. The way I view it is we're trying to achieve a true balance between all of what is necessary and what is, unnecessary. The unnecessary we should take away. There has to be a source of evil. There has to be a source of good. There has to be a source of balance. There has to be in between. There has to be that flow in order for us to function properly. It's just kind of ingrained in our very energy source to have all of these things existing simultaneously. It's why some people say there is no good guy, there is no bad guy. There is just the way. It's whatever is the most appropriate for the true balance of things. Almost like Star Wars, and it like the Force, that energy flow is through us all constantly, and it does have positive, negative, neutral flowing constantly. And if you take out one part of the equation, the others fall apart, because the light is feeding off of the darkness's hatred. The hatred is feeding off of the light's love. They're food sources.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. Okay, so I understand that having light energy and a light body is what we're all supposed to be working towards.
We should actually work towards having both simultaneously, if we could, having our light body and our dark body, getting our true balance of the universe, and understanding
you're great.
Where we sit as a mass whole, which is a hard concept. We need to be set up at more like a domino structure. We need to set people up more like a circuit, like a computer, because you can do anything within that circuitry, but unless you truly connect it in a way that the computer understands, those circuits aren't going to mean shit unless they're in that right, appropriate order. And once you get people of these different levels in that set, then all of a sudden the whole entire computer system can work. All of a sudden, boom. Just from changing little things like that, we could change reality as a whole, from just the concept of sentience.
Okay, so because now I'm just getting confused. So I kind of get what you're saying, but I want to.
That's an end goal, personally.
A little bit more basic to where
sentience itself. Sentience being this whole experience of you and I, because you and I, we're both the same. We both come from the same sources, but we are different points within that. And that goes true for all human beings. Well, at the same time, we are individual, and there is no one else like us. There is one of us, but there is all of us, almost like a single person going mad. It's the universe is deep and very complex on trying to describe itself as it is all and nothing at once, truly flowing. Whatever may be is. just at different places within the energy field, whether it be physical, spiritual, the Fey world, or different dimensional frequencies that all exist simultaneously and slowly affect each other, including our physical, spiritual. Our shadows have their own realities. They're anti-positive, constantly flowing and feeding off of each other, creating a balance, creating the universe at what it is. And if one gets more powerful than the other, it creates off balance, which creates death. And then after that death is created, it rebirths itself and tries to create that balance once again. You're muted.
So it's just, you were mentioning that if it gets too dark, it ceases to exist or something like that. Oh, okay. So too much light is not good. Okay. So basically a person has a dark side and a light side, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have
a dark side, a light side, a side of balance, and then them true selves, which is made up of all of them. They have four sides. There's four sides to a coin. You have your heads, your tails, your rim, and then your innards that make up truly what it is.
Okay, the reason why I can vouch for that is because of my visions. Now, I've been, like I said, I would stream in information and I would have to just write. And I tuned into the fact that each one of us is actually four of us. So there's actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, each one is a dark female and a light female and a dark male and a light male. So there's actually like four parts.
But it normally does try to work that way as continuation. But in some cases, as I said, it's an individual by individual basis. Each person has slightly different everything to one another, but the same basic rules and start. You can just decide what you are in the energy flow and continue forth and make your own experiences and existences a reality within your physical form in your lifetime that you are living. And once you're gone, you'll probably be reborn into another one, and it will slide and connect over and over again. And the oldest of us all is probably the youngest of us all on a constant basis.
The oldest of us all is probably the youngest of us all. What do you mean?
The oldest energy source will be the youngest physical source.
How does that happen?
Cases. Well, cycle of life and death. If we're sentient energy, so as we flow, you go from a physical life, then you die, and you explore the cosmos. You go out there, you see the different dimensions, you talk to the hyperspace gestures and things like that, and the different people and different functions, and you live based off your karmic balance. You go to some negative, you go to some positive,
right?
Inner balance, and then you're reborn into a lifetime. You're reborn into another human. Well, the one that started it all at this point, if we're all living, that person is either dead or about to be reborn.
Can you, are we like a tree where we have one of us and then we can branch out in different ways? Is that what you're saying?
With energy, yes.
With the energy
and flow of the universe, that's exactly how it works. Not say in a physical sense, but in an energy,
energetic
flowing through ether, which is just the thick. It's almost like a clay. Just like they say in the Bible, we are made of clay. The ether is just like a spiritual clay that forms us. The thicker it gets, the more it condenses, the more it turns into a physical matter. And each different color has a different ability, different effect.
Okay, so where is our core being connected? Like, where's our root? Is our root connected to source? And then we're allowed to just create and branch out and go all these ways, but
No,
we're all still.
well, the best way to describe it is the source is it's not connected to anything. It's here's a head of a tree, here's a head of a tree, here's a head of a tree, here's a head of a tree in a full circle. And then there's multiple trees just like that are all connected themselves in a ley line, giving more power to another. But there's multiple trees, and if you go smaller and smaller into those trees, it turns into physical realities and physical worlds and some of these other dimensional places that you go to as you go deeper down into these orbs. And there's numerous of them. So it's like each of these trees is connected to each other, and each of these lines is connected to each other simultaneously.
Okay, so I mean, I know that really trippy stuff comes from source, and we're all creators and things like that. Let's go back to the Fae being. Let's try to explain what an interdimensional is and how we could be existing on the same. Would you say plane? Or same Earth, or same?
Same Earth and same plane. They're just in two different frequencies.
Is there a difference between Is there a difference between a plane and an Earth?
No. You can have an Earth is say Earth is our Earth. It's a planet. It's representing that planet and how many existences therefore it is. Some of them are in the same physical existence, but they're different vibrations within that as it just goes from one color to the next, like a rock layer. Like think geology is, okay, this amount of pressure happened at this time, or this major event happened here, the different layers of it. Because the universe is more like a rug than, it flows, it can be ripped, it can be torn, sometimes it needs to be sewn, but it's a never-ending Play-Doh rug. I'm sorry to say, the universe is a Play-Doh rug.
So let's wow. Okay, so what is the difference between the Fae and a human? Is there
They have different appearance from time to time. They, like in the Fae world, you can be numerous of physical beings. You can be numerous species. Because it's even if you exist within that Fae, because there's many Fae that don't have a physical counterpart, and vice versa. Sometimes they do, but not always.
Okay, so they're more energetic, but they may or may not be attached to something more physical.
They're connected to our energies. They feed off of us, live off of us. They mine us, just like we mine them emotionally. Some of our creativity comes from them, and vice versa.
Well, what do you mean? Go back, because now we're getting to something that makes more sense to me.
The Fae is another physical universe connected to our same exact planet. And even though they're a different dimensional frequency, they still affect some of our energies because both of our energies are simultaneously connected. And say some of our emotional states, we feed off of the Fae in a way, and they feed off of us in a way. They like feeding off, creating certain emotions within us and using them to their advantage, and vice versa. I mean, some of our creativity comes from them, and in return, some of their emotions come from us, existing simultaneously. Some of them will physically die from us going for a walk and not even noticing it, because some of them are very small. Even though they're spiritually powerful, they still have a physical form, just like you or I, that you can affect, and vice versa. It's just more likely, since the majority of them are small and breed very quickly, they turn into, okay, then it's a rat race, survive, because half of these homes that we just built, turns out they just built a highway. And bye to our new homes we just built, and vice versa. It can create some major issues of physical mass, because they do exist simultaneously. And as I said, their structures and our structures are vibration. They can flow one from the other, but as I said, that takes being able to change vibration, mostly due through fog, as you've seen.
How am I interacting with them?
Because you are one of the few beings existing in both simultaneously, which is a little rare. As I said, not all of them have a physical form, and not all of us have a fey form. But sometimes they do. Sometimes they exist simultaneously and within both, and that can be more dangerous if, say, they converted to the same vibration. It'd be more dangerous for somebody like you that's in both than somebody that only exists in one, than not the other, and hopefully doesn't materialize into, say, the side of a building or concrete or a dam or vice versa, if that ever happened. This is the dangers of some of the dimensional fusions.
Yeah, I'm still not getting it. Okay, so I get some of this, but the level that you're talking is kind of still way up there.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to describe it the best way I can. They physically exist in a different vibration simultaneously with ours. If both those vibrations, even though they're vibrating very differently, would calm down and go to the same, both hands would become one, because they live in the exact same place. Any gap in our world that exists, that is a solid beam there, would become physical. Any buildings on their world would become physical in ours, and vice versa. Meaning,
oh my God, I just got
it. Destroy buildings. It would destroy people in the fusing of the two, if they ever came the exact frequency without complete harmonious convergence, which makes both simultaneously at the same time and fuses the things instead of destroying the matter.
No, I get that. Okay, so is the Fae a higher vibration, or what is the difference? Do you know what?
The Fae vibration is higher. It's in between the physical realm, which is the lowest vibration, and the energy realm, which is the highest vibration. The more physical you are, the more solid you are, the slower your vibration, the more of a thud, 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 thick, constant flow. Physical, tap, tap, tap. And vice versa, frickin'. The more light and airy you get, the more pure energy, the faster you go, the more of a plasma state you are, the more likely you are to be in a higher realm of existence. Some certain beings are made of pure light, or stars themselves, quite legitimately being sentient energy, just creating vessels out of different materials within different dimensional frequencies, all only being the only difference between one or the other is layers of vibrations creating different things. Physical, dream, each one is lighter and lighter. The lower you go, the more dense you are. The higher you go in dimensional frequencies, the lighter you are.
So do you think that I'm possibly already fused into a kind of half this, half that, or?
I feel like that's more or less your future, depending on the dimensional frequencies. In your case, I think you'll be fine. I think it will be a fusion based off of the way you have balanced things and the way you see both things. But say somebody that didn't know about it and would reject that just so happens to be in a similar situation, it could potentially mean their death. The dimensional fusing is a scary concept, but it's something that I worry about on a regular basis, because each of these vibrations changes based off the energy flow of each world. And what happens when they get combined? Boom, antimatter-matter reaction in some cases. It just depends on which vibrations tune into each other first, how bad everything else is.
I'm kind of getting it. I'm kind of understanding. I mean, our minds are incredible. Is it mostly mind, or is it our aura?
It's more our emotions, our soul, our heart, our the raw feeling of anger or love, or a lot of interdimensional or even extra dimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings, because all three do exist. It's just most likely you're going to be dealing with an extra dimensional being than an extraterrestrial being. The
Okay,
more
what is an aura?
it's they can actually pick it up on physical cameras. It's the energy force that your body leaves. It has a physical weight of it. It's even though it's light, and it is pretty much a copy of your physical self, but made of pure raw energy. If you're able to leave your body, that's where you're going into. If you're
Oh, okay.
yeah, and what you're seen as, you're it's the soul in some aspects. It's your pure mana force. It's the same thing, just different names for it, different places. Same exact old world concepts. And what it really turns into. You're muted.
Yeah. I try to mute once in a while because there's like noises and I don't want
Oh,
to
sorry.
pick up. Um, so interesting, so interesting. What are what are angels?
They're other dimensional beings that are also part physical being as well. They're they're in a state that is closer to purified light. It's Zero likes to sit in a state of pure light while feeding off the darkest of darkness at the same time, from my understanding. The darkness feeds off the light and vice versa, in the never ending that they're even though we're constantly growing, it doesn't really take anything to make everything as it grows. You may lose a species here and there, but the energy force, continuous life, snake, serpent, viewing it as different cultures, just boiling it down to the reality of the situation. It's an energy force that we're able to tap into psychically, mentally, and it can tell us answers. It can give us memories of what we used to be, and it can actually physically affect reality dependent on the mass collaboration of all of us.
Can people be part angel, part human?
Yes, everything exists. Every single possibility dimensionally exists. We've gone through every possible scenario. Before it starts condensing down, it goes into every possibility, trying to create the newest possibilities, growing constantly. If the universe is going back, that means we've been through every singular possibility. Apparently, it is a finite number if we're receding, and it does this, and then we'll go back to absolutely nothing, and then go back to a couple, slowly growing, slowly growing, slowly growing, slowly growing. We've experienced everything come back, growing, 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 everything come back. And there's different frequencies in between existing simultaneously, which there are their own worlds. Our physical one is one of them, and others.
So anything is possible.
Yes, it's just probably not going. It's going to be a lot stranger than the fiction out
So
there. It is
it just
stranger than
depends
fiction.
on your vibration.
Vibration, understanding, and capabilities.
Well, let me ask you this. Say like somebody has a certain vibration and but they're living here on Earth and they go to work and they experience people that um like just seem to have a completely different vibe. Are we more similar than we think? Or are there really or can
Yes,
they really exist
we're,
on
well, the thing about the different vibrations is it kind of works for consciousness as well. You're more likely to see and talk to and think and interact with people on a more similar vibration to you than somebody that's on a lower vibration. See, on the average. Um,
Do you think that people that live in the United States have one kind of like a similar vibration compared to someone across the world? Um,
you, you,
People
you,
more similar
you
than they
misunderstand me. I literally mean physically, because there's numerous versions of actual reality happening simultaneously, and depending on your level of consciousness is which of these you're in, which, and each of them has a beginning and an end. A particular apocalypse, it's like the better you are, certain things happen. The worse you are, certain things happen in between. They're different places, and you will move freely without even realizing it from one of these physical realities to another based off your vibrations and like your karma and things. You could have the highest vibration, but you could be karmically in punishment from the universe itself, so you sit in the worst possible scenario, and or vice versa, just depending on actions, different things like that. There's a lot of variables in looking at the universe as a whole through spiritual, interdimensional, and physical means. It takes a full seminar for half of the world's problems when it comes to just all the main spiritual things happening, and you'd be surprised at some of the heroes that have saved
us. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? This is just
and vice versa.
Expression. Or are we trapped in these bodies? Is this expression typical in this human body, or is it something we got trapped into by accident?
In some cases, it was done purposely, but it exists naturally. It's a learning tool. It's each lifetime, and you will relive a lifetime numerous times. This life is meant to teach you of certain things and trying to get you to think of more, a greater connection for yourself and others. It's trying to help you achieve that balance, get over personal issues, and get to a better point for everyone until you are able to pass the third grade of dimensional existence, of sentience, the third grade of sentience. There's more grades than this, a lot more. And then you get into the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, each dimension. That's another class. It's to teach your energy something, to teach a lesson of something.
So is there actually like a demarcation line to get to like the fifth dimension? Like, do you wake up and you're like different, or is it just another day? I mean, it's just a different vibration? Is there like you
From
wake
one
up
dimension to another, you have to have death. Death is needed because you have to gain an entire new form, unless you have a physical body that's able to change its entire mass and structure and literally entire DNA structure and how it functions, because it has to go from one dimension to another, which means different rules of that universe that you're going to be in.
So you have to have another bodysuit to exist in a different dimension.
Yes. For the most part, there's a couple that are compatible, but it's few far in between, and it becomes more of a difficult. Certain dimensional frequencies have things that are needed for certain life forms, so there's not exactly one meat suit fits all for each of these classes. It's like, okay, here's your new suit for your new job. Or like a school uniform, you're muted.
So you literally have to die to go to a different dimension. So this whole idea that people are saying we're ascending, it
takes away, it fuses your physical body into your spiritual self, making you a seventh dimensional being, and therefore you can continue. That can happen. But that's a harder path than most ever take.
Say that again. Can we ascend in these bodies?
Yes, we can, but it's a lot harder than most other paths, period, of ascension. That is the hardest. In order to physically take yourself and ascend into the next level, you literally become a seventh, eighth dimensional being, seventh, eighth, ninth. Those three can support us. They do have the means. There's a problem with the fifth and sixth dimension. It does not support us. It just depends on which dimensions you're talking about, whether or not it's actually physically feasible in order to do some of those things.
So, Mark, I was told that I was born with a 12D body. They said, how in the world were you born with your 12-dimensional body? Is that possible?
The only ones that's possible for are the ascended masters. You've been through all the classes, you've been through all the lessons, and now you're either here in a teaching job or something like that, or doing a lesson within the universe itself, trying to help create the balance and flow of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm here. Um, it's so interesting to talk about dimensions and these types of things. And as far as the Fae goes, do they have a certain look, or could they just look like us, but just more
They can
energy?
look like humans. They can look like our definition of elves. They can look like giant pig people, or cyclopses, or dragons in some cases, but more like they look a little different because dragon is another thing. They do exist. They're just very rare and protected, just like the unicorn is real and protected. The unicorn exists in both us and the Fey realm at the same time. It's one of the more raw flows of magic itself. But no, for the most part, the Fae, they look like numerous different species.
Okay.
There's animals and predators there, which I've seen and know of, and they can be deadly. I mean, the idea of the what you call it that used to pull not mermaid, but siren. The whole idea of a siren coming in is actually a creature which is from that world, which injects you with a drug that just makes you euphoric and happy as it draws you in and drowns you in the little ponds that they live in the middle of jungles. I mean, it's an entirely different actual physical world that happens simultaneously with ours, and if those vibrations were to turn to the same, it could have deadly implications.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm getting that. How often does that happen? I mean, how often does that?
There's a chance of it during a planetary alignment, um, because at that point, every so often, as things start aligning, all the sounds, those sounds, which are the deafening roars that create the vibrations themselves, all kind of ping and hum. And if any of them are off balance, there's a chance they fuse into another, creating an event which could either potentially destroy them or not. And it all happens randomly just based off of the flows of the energies of each of these dimensional frequencies on a constant as they're pinging and banging off of each other and everything, their vibrations slowly being changed from their movement. Even though they're one over the other physically on a flat space, they're moving everywhere, bouncing, bing, 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 looking at a two-dimensional standpoint, even though they exist higher than both.
Would that be the same as, okay, so I've heard that if you, if say you were to sit next to somebody and you were able to breathe the same as them to where you got on the same exact sync, you could exchange energy that way. Kind of
Yes,
like a vampire.
you can attune yourself to somebody and be able to give energy, take energy. It's more likely to read somebody's thoughts if you're able to get in harmony with them. It just depends on how they actually take it.
So it's a good stopping point right here. And I think that it's a lot to take in. The next topic that I wanted to go into with you is magic and you and remote viewing, and then I really
Abilities and energy manipulation. Oh yeah.
and then I really want to talk about vampirism and
Okay.
how that all is like how we explain that in the astral body and things like that. So can we do
There's
that on the
numerous
next
types.
show?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can try that
Well,
there's honestly numerous types.
let's wrap this up. Let's take a break and we will return for part 4. Stay tuned. And everybody that's listening now, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.